What's up, people? It's your boy Humble Dad back with another edition of Humble Dad Podcast. We got a great show. Why? Because I said so, right? But nevertheless, man, we got some special guests in the building. We're gonna be talking about fatherhood and faith. Fatherhood and faith. Do they go together? How do they work independently? How do they work apart from one another? Um, and we're gonna first introduce none other than I call him, you know, kind of like a big bro, even though he's younger than me. Call him Mr. All World. Welcome to the building, Mr. Trill AC.
Humble dad, my dog, man. It's good to be here, bro.
That's
Appreciate
a
you
bet,
having me.
man. Absolutely, man. I appreciate you always coming through. So the conversation we're gonna talk about is interesting. But before we get started, the question that we have for the day is, what brings you peace?
Um, brings me peace, progress in any shape, form. I feel like if you're not progressing, you're going backwards. So, and we ain't got much time for that. God ain't give us enough time to be going backwards. So, as long as I'm progressing, I'm good. If I'm not, then all my energy is invested towards turning the ship around. So, yeah, that's what brings me peace.
That's dope. Appreciate that. And then next to the stage, none other than Miss Shay. How you doing, ma'am?
Hey, Steve. Glad to be here.
Man, I'm glad you came back. You know what I'm saying? I ain't run you away. I appreciate
Not yet. Not yet.
it. Not yet. Okay, listen. I need to be on my best behavior. So here we go. So what brings you peace?
A few things bring me peace. Jamaica brings me peace. Quiet time brings me peace. Long road trips bring me peace. Like just being able to drive on the open road, that brings me peace. So
That's a
yeah,
bet. Thank you for that answer. Hey, listen, you had a few things. I might need to take one of those, especially the Jamaica one.
yeah. You
All right, welcome to the stage. None other than first time guest, Mr. Hink. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, big brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you being here tonight.
Right on, right on.
That's a bet. So the question for you is the same. What brings you peace, homie?
Shit, well, now at the age of 47, it's a little different than it was when I was younger.
Mm,
But right now, it's my son. Enjoying watching my son play, enjoying his about to enjoy his senior season of basketball, and now that I'm a grandfather, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. So now she's going to be my new source of peace at this stage of my life. So that's pretty
that-
much it, man. That and getting the opportunity to go to different places, international. So definitely utilizing my passport, not for relationship wise, but just for travel.
I see the clarity right there. I see
Yeah,
the clarity that you have to put that. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. I appreciate you being here, homie. That's
right
funny.
on, big brother.
And then welcome to the stage, a first time guest, Miss Ashley. What's going on, Miss Ashley?
What's up, everybody? How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well. So, I want to say thank you first and foremost for being here tonight, and hopefully you enjoy yourself and interested in coming back.
I'm looking forward to it.
That's the best. So the question once again is, what brings you peace?
Well, currently, I had time to think about it since everybody else went. So, currently, what's bringing me peace is my morning walks. I take my little morning walks, and they just give me a lot of different clarity on life and my business and family, of course, and things like this. To be able to say yes to, not only meeting new people, but just open conversation.
That's a bet, and this is definitely going to be an open conversation. We have, you always when you do in podcasts, you really don't know who to reach out to and try to get somebody that be in, and that'll be inspiring to others as well as give good conversation. And I'm glad to know you all because I know y'all all will give good conversation. So we're gonna go to the first question on
All
the
right.
document, and the way it works, we're gonna look at it like this. We're gonna go Trill, Shay, Hink, and then Ashley. And then the second question is a free for all. You answer it at the time frame that you would like to do it. Right. And the first question up is, what is a spiritual leader? How would you describe a spiritual leader?
I say a servant. Somebody that believes in the higher power, somebody that believes that our situation is predestined. It's just my job not to mess it up. You know, and again, you can't lead without being a follower, without knowing how to be a follower, right? So the most important person that you should be following is God. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would tie to it. So he has to be in line with the predestined path and the path that we going, and that's gonna make him a way better leader in terms of leading his household. So that's my take on that.
That's a bet. Shay, what you got?
You did give the order, right? So I shouldn't have waited that long pause. You did. You gave the instructions.
I did, yeah.
Okay, so a spiritual leader, I guess one who's grounded and rooted in his spiritual beliefs, who's able to understand it, embody it, represent it, and guide his household or his family through it. So that's what I would say.
Okay. I'm gonna just ask a follow up question to that. Does it have to be the man?
So I would say it doesn't have to, but it's best to, because that's when the whole house is in alignment. It's like the man kind of sets the tone for a lot of things in the household, even though the woman supports the home and makes the home what it is, but the man really sets that standard on what that foundation should look like. So although it doesn't have to be, I believe, in my opinion, that it's best that if it is.
That's a bet. Thank you. Hey, let's get it. Hank, what you got on it, man?
Well, spiritual leader, the example I can have was my grandmother. Anytime we would make any moves, we praying before she going to the senior citizen home. She praying for the road trip there and back. I mean, everything she had was dealing with some type of scripture. If we got in some type of trouble, she's coming with a scripture. I remember one time I got drunk for the first time and the last time. I was probably about 15. She didn't let me sit out of church because I was drunk. No, you ain't drag your drunk ass to church. And all of a sudden the pastor changed his scripture, felt like just for me, and I felt like my grandmother gave him a call or something. But she was a spiritual leader in our home. Like I said, she's always leading with prayer about everything and all things. So it would not be a time when she wouldn't come with a scripture. I don't care what's going on. Something she seen on the news that was troubling, she gonna come with a scripture. The Lord said it's gonna happen. I'm like, God, come on, grandma. Really? But that's the way it was. So she was our spiritual leader.
That's a bet. Ashley, on you.
Well, I agree with everybody what they're said, and I'm going to add someone that is a forever student. I feel like any spiritual leader should be always learning and having the knowledge that they need to, um, not only go with the times, but just to be able to teach, because people have their own battles that they're actually facing. So, they need to be forever, learning spiritually and learning about, what they need to teach and what God has given them.
That's a bet. Mr. Sir Hell, thanks for being here today, sir.
Shout out to the one of the only humble dad. Good to see you, man. Thanks for allowing me to be here. Shout out to Trill. Shout out to Shay. Good to see my brother Hink, and good to see you, Ashley.
That's a bet. Hey, when we're gonna go fall back, you got to tell us like what brings you peace. What brings you peace? That's for you, Sir Hell. Yes.
That's a really good question. These days, quiet. If you give me a cup of coffee and give me a book and some classical music, we are great. That brings me really, really deep peace.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, that's good, man. I started listening to like low. It's called lo-fi or something like that.
Yeah, lo-fi
and
hip hop.
yes,
Yep.
yes, and it's usually like the jazz, and that really calms me down when I was studying. So I'm with you on that one. and I don't like coffee. Side note, okay, tell you about this story. All right, I was living in India for about 6 months, and I had never drank coffee before, right? And I was really tired because the time shifting is opposite over here. And so I had this, they was giving the agents like these little bitty cups, and then I went to one of those cups that Trill be having all the time, the red cups, right? See, I brought you into the story. So then what ends up happening was like I had two of those in an hour, right? I had an out of body experience because I had so much caffeine in my body and I had never had it before that like I talk a lot and I was outside my body telling myself you talking too much. Like it was it was like
I
it
don't
was
sound
like
like coffee, sir. That don't sound like coffee. That sound like something different.
well that's what they said it was.
Get some
But so
CBD oil, did you?
Herbal tea.
listen, that's what they said. Hey, listen. So let's get back to it. So here's the question, Sir Hale. What is a spiritual leader? How would you describe a spiritual leader?
That's just we start with the heavy one.
Yes, sir.
So when I think about that is somebody who cares about their morality, right? I think that morality is connected to your spiritual foundation. So to me, a leader who is a spiritual leader is somebody who understands that what you do makes a difference and that ultimately either you're pleasing the God you serve or you're not. And based off of wanting to please the God you serve to really be strong on your faith, you conduct yourself in a way that does that. So when I think about a spiritual leader, it's somebody who can lead themselves well from a place of authenticity, and then they don't have to force people to follow them. People can look at their life and their behavior and their decisions and want to emulate them just because that's just who they are.
Mm, that's interesting. Okay, I like that. So I like the foundation that y'all kind of created. So I'm gonna transition to the next question, and then whoever wants to answer and go first, please do so. And then if there's any follow questions, this is a discussion. I'm just moderating, right? So everybody kind of gave the baseline of God, right? So my question is, can a person lead without being connected to a higher power? And if so, please explain your answer, obviously. Can you lead without being connected to a higher power?
You can lead, but will you lead well? Will you lead with certain characteristics that when you are connected to a higher power that really inspires you and guides you? I think, in my opinion, when you have like God or that you can hope in or pull from, that gives you a different type of momentum in life. It gives you a different type of endurance. So I, I think you can lead, but how well you lead or which way it's going is the real question.
Straight to hell. That's where they lead. Straight to
Right.
hell.
So
Yeah, I would say yeah. To be honest, I think spirituality is a aid in leadership. It's a nice foundation, provides you a guideline. But everybody is not religious. We're just gonna keep it real here. And it's a lot of people that aren't religious that are very, very successful. So when we say lead, where is important. But I think the where kind of ties to spirituality in the sense of like what's important to you. See, what's important to some people is financial, security or money or whatever the case may be. So if that's what you worship, then who am I to say that that person is not successful if he was able to get there without having spirituality tied to it? So that's just how that's just how I look at it. I look at spirituality as a way to aid in you being grounded. Everybody needs something to believe in. A lot of people believe in God. A lot of people believe in Christ, but everybody don't. They believe in what it is that they believe in, and that's what pushes them, and that's what motivates them. But if we get to the same destination, the route is irrelevant to me. So that's my take on it.
I guess success is relative then, because what you may deem as successful isn't what I would deem as successful, right? So people have different opinions of what success is. And so if we're talking about leadership equating to success, I guess it should be successful if you're a good leader, but how you truly define that um, is what that success is. How you truly define that success is what it's rooted in, right? So,
And I'm just gonna say no, because like you say, spiritual. There's only one spiritual that I can define, and that's Jesus. That's Christ. That's my Lord and Savior. So anything else, and then that's kind of where what Shay just said. It just equates on what you feel like, success is, or the next level for you, or what you're comfortable or satisfied with. But to me, it's no. If you're not being led by, you know, the Christ, then no, you're not. You're not.
Well, for me, I think you can. Um, and the reason why is as long as you have morals, you got a chance. Um, Unfortunately, this country was built on religious beliefs, and we're not in a good place as a country, period. So, this is my opinion.
If we just out on the table, yes, you can absolutely lead without a sort of faith. The issue is where we going, and that's where faith comes in, because you don't lead people beyond what you see. And this is where faith comes in. So if anybody who's led any organization, anybody who's led any church, any great movement, they believed in something, and I was connected to what they believed in. As me, as a man of faith, you realize that in leadership, there's a destination. That means we're going someplace, we're arriving to some common goal. And if there is no particular belief, no higher power that we aspire to, it can't be leadership, because leadership is about vision. Like a lot of us, I think we confuse management with leadership. Management is just keeping things going and floating. Leadership is all about seeing something bigger, seeing something different that's not there, and catalyzing a team or a group of people to go achieve that thing. So I don't think that successful leadership is possible without having some type of higher power. For me, my faith that I believe in.
because then who are you leaning towards, right? It's like, it just begs the question for me. Like you said, you're arriving to a destination in leadership. Like, how many times have we had managers who may have been great managers but not truly good leaders, right? You have to have an ability to inspire and influence, right? There are so many additional characteristics that you need in order to be a successful leader, and I think spirituality is a component of that. It's like the fuel for that, right?
And then I'll also add this last thing as well. I like what you just said, Shay. Like, the reason why high power is necessary, because leadership is freaking hard. It is exhausting. And if you are just relying on you, well, you're gonna burn out at some point. And this is where the inspiration comes in at. This is where when the concept of getting that second wind comes from. That's not you. That comes from something bigger than you, that to keep you going. So I don't think, again, leadership is not great leadership, right? Not great leadership is not possible without believing in something higher than yourself.
And I just want to back up with what the gentleman that just spoke said, the management part. Like that just kind of further supports my no is, I don't feel like they're actually leading anything. I think they're just managing, what's happening in their organization, or, whatever the higher power may be, the success rate, or wherever they're comfortable at. That's all it's doing, is they're just managing it, because leadership does come, like you said, it comes from something within, and then of course them learning, and it's just, I guess, whoever they're praying to, whoever they're actually giving their um their worship and their praise to. So yeah, I like the management word. That word definitely sits. I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna steal it from you.
Oh, go ahead. Somebody try to say something, Shay?
Oh, I was just gonna say, as part of leadership, you have this stewardship component, right? So it's like you have to be able to know how to steward that which you have. And if you're only going off your own power, thinking that you have the answers, you'll get to a point where you'll get stuck. Because even as me, as a business owner, I can grow my business to a 6-figure business, but it's different to take it to a 7-figure business, right? It's a different level of thought, vision, scalability. So I need someone who's at a higher level than I am to help guide me to get to that 7. Like, I'm not reaching out to someone who hasn't probably hit 6 figures in their business to try to take me to get to 7. It's just, I'm not doing that, right? It's a different level of vision, experience, attention to detail that's going to take you to that next level. So I think even looking at a higher power, you have to be attached to a higher power, and because every new level is something different. And so when you don't want to continue, or when you can't even lean to your own understanding because you've never experienced this before, where are you going to go? Where are you going to draw from to keep you going, to keep you pushing?
And you're right. They're not doing any of that. They're just managing it. So, like, I'm stuck on that management word. But you're right. I do feel like that the same way. Like Shay said, you have to be able to steward it correctly. So, if you're not actually connected to God and you're not connected to the right spiritual, um, higher power, I guess, or spiritual, leadership, then yeah, you will fail. You'll just be managing it. You'll be just, um, I can't even say comfortable anymore. I just say you literally are going to fail. You're not going to be happy. Um, I know a lot of people that have money and they're not happy. So then that just goes back to saying, who's leading them. So
I don't know, man. I mean, I hear what y'all saying. I hear it, and again, this is a rough topic because just spirituality in general is so relative, so subjective to people's beliefs, right? So I'm not gonna say y'all are wrong because that's what y'all believe, and I salute that all day long. But at the end of the day, you can make decisions and forecast and lead based on the analytics that are around you, likelihood, calculated risks, educated guesses, all of these things take effect. That's just like in any business, right? Like if I'm running this business and I'm the CEO of it and I'm in charge of the vision, I'm in charge of where this thing is going. I don't necessarily have to have a belief in God for me to steer it the right way. I could look at my numbers, look at my analytics, look at the field, look at the past. People say it all the time. You can't know where you're going without knowing where you've been. Well, reason is because history repeats itself typically, right? So it's a lot of different tangible analytics that I can pull from to help me to aid in my move forward, even if I'm not familiar with where it is that I'm going. That's not necessarily tied to God, right? But again, that's where the subjectiveness comes in at, because y'all would see that as, oh, well, that's God telling you, to where somebody else will see that as, no, that's what the analytics are telling me. That's what history is telling me. That's what my experience growing up is telling me, that if you input this, the output is going to be this. There's a high probability of that. So in that situation, I may just be gambling on the odds. It's not necessarily meaning that it's tied to my faith in God or scripture that I read in the Bible per se. So I think, there has to be room for that, or that is a reasonable solution. Like I feel like it's irresponsible to say that it's impossible to lead without a strong belief in God or a strong belief in just, biblical, the Bible and the Word and Christ and all of that, because it's like I said before, there's plenty of people who don't believe in that, but are pretty successful in how they run their lives, right? But again, the success goes back to this subjectiveness that I'm speaking of. So this is a hard discussion to have, but I just want to give that other side. We can't land on definite, nah, it's impossible. Because
Well,
it is. We see it every day.
I'd like to respond to you. So,
Um,
go ahead, Hank.
no, go ahead. Sorry, I come up.
No, go ahead, Hank. You was off mute, and then Sir Hell can
Okay.
go. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say we say this, but as Black people, we one of the most spiritual and religious people out there in the world. We that's us. But unfortunately, our women are amongst the most single women because the Black churches, to me, keep Black women single because they submit to the pastor and not willing to submit a man that maybe in their life are trying to get in their life. They're more in love with a man who's already taken than a man who's available. But we the most spiritual and religious people out here, though. And we have the most troubles and issues we dealing with. We the first one to go to the Lord and pray about it and think about it, put money in the offer plate, but won't do anything for our own people. Not really.
Are you speaking of the old school? Like, I'm like, who are you speaking of?
No, you have to wait, Shay. You got to wait in line.
Okay,
So
okay.
you
I'm
can
sorry.
respond
Let me
to
wait my
Sir
turn.
Hell. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in these conversations, there's a reason why I don't say religious. I don't say church, because typically, whenever you talk about faith, the conversation goes Christian, Bible, church, and I wanted to answer this from a completely scholastic perspective, which is why I said it is possible to lead this way. But Trill, as you were speaking, I noticed you were talking about analytics and about data and statistics, things of that nature. When I heard that is the goal of a CEO to leverage those things. But we don't lead technologies. We don't lead data. We don't lead computers and software and products. Leadership is about people. And so I would, even if we are not religious, I do believe, based off me knowing you, that you have a heart. You care about people. You want to see people succeed. You want to see people make it. You're not malicious. You want to do right by people. I would say that those characteristics are tied to some moral belief you have, and that belief, whatever that is tied to something different. And that's what I'm speaking to. That leadership is not the leading of things; it's of people. And anytime we want to do right, or we have a sense of right or wrong, or good or bad, then that belief inherently is connected to a higher power. That's what helps us to govern our behavior, and thusly creates an ability for us to lead well.
Or we could just understand the fact that good business or success in business is typically tied to relationships that you maintain. Right. So me wanting to treat my employees well, it will behoove me to. If I want them to keep working for me and to keep making me money. So again, the motive can vary based on who we talking about. Now, again, if we talking about somebody that's deeply connected from a spiritual perspective, you're right. That has a hell of a win on how they set up their morals, right? But again, the same way that person can lead successfully in that way, person on that other side could just understand the game and understand finesse and understand the importance of relationships and understand the importance of how that translates to good business. So I'm going to do a certain thing so I can get a certain outcome. And spirituality is not necessarily tied to that. So that would be the only pushback that I have, because I mean, again, in terms of leading, in terms of like a big part of like getting people to acquiesce to what it is you're doing is to win. Let's just be honest here. 95% of the people in existence is sheep. They're going to follow what works. And what works is typically tied to what they deem as successful. Most people deem financial success or financial security as being successful, right? So if they see that your way is working, and if I can jump on that ship and win too, I'm following that. 95% of people are, regardless of what they, spirituality is. I mean, we didn't seen pastors finessing and doing all types of, and these is deeply spiritual people. You understand me? But success, people are going like success does more leading than people can, if we're gonna be honest. That's what I mean by that. If you can showcase a track record of winning, people will follow you. So and just like I said, that track record of winning may not be tied to spirituality, may just be tied to me understanding the data, me learning how to work the numbers, and me knowing how to finesse. To whereas on the other side, it may be tied to spirituality. So again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that both sides can get to the same destination taking different routes. And who am I to say that one of them is wrong? That's all I'm saying.
That's good. Shay, what you want? You wanted to say something before.
I was just going to say, I mean, I consider myself a successful business owner, right? I've been having my business 13 years. So, but will I say that the success of my business is what allowed my team to remain? Because we had some unsuccessful years, especially when you're starting a business and all you have is a vision, right? We're talking about the roots when you're getting it out the mud, when you're trying to get people to buy in, to really contribute their skills and talents for $0 to $1 until you get to a point where you can pay them what they're worth. And so I guess I'm speaking personally. I do think a person can lead, but how well they lead is how I would define if it's successful. I guess I would have my own characteristics that would identify, okay, that's pretty successful. Because money to me, that ain't how I define success, right? I define success by being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Now, money is a conduit that allows me to do that, but I don't define success by having all this money. And I even made a post about that last week. I was like, many people say I'm successful. No, I've done some successful things, but I wouldn't deem myself as successful because, it's relative. So I do think you can lead, right? You can lead, but how well you lead, how far you go. And it's not saying that there aren't any anomalies to it, right? Nothing is 100%. So you will have people who lead and they don't have a spiritual power that they are connected to. It happens, but I don't know if I've ever worked for someone who wasn't connected to a spiritual being that I enjoy working for. And I'm just being completely honest. That's not what, it didn't keep me around. It's a different level of morals and characteristics and attitudes when you deal with people who don't have that spiritual connection. And I'm just speaking from experience. So my 2 cents.
For
So
sure.
you don't think you can have that even without being spiritual, though?
I didn't say that. So I said,
well, no, that's what I'm asking.
But I didn't say that. What I said was you can lead, but how well you do it is how I would define it. That's what I said. I think you can lead, but how well you do it and how successful that is relative. But I said personally, I haven't worked for anyone who didn't believe in the higher power that I enjoyed working for, because I worked for some people who did not believe in the higher power. It's different. It's different. And so that's why you create your circles with those who maybe support some of the things that you enjoy foundationally or fundamentally. It's not saying that they are your yes people, because they still have that balance, but it's a difference.
But how would you know unless it's part of your questionnaire? I mean, I don't know. How would you know?
Well, how would I know if they don't believe? Yes. I'm saying when I worked in corporate. I haven't worked in corporate for a while. I'm just saying when I worked in corporate, I did work under managers who didn't believe, and it was terror. It's a different set of morals, characteristics, and attitudes of people who believe in the higher power and those who don't. And I'm not saying you have to believe in God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, because I do understand that people have their own set of belief systems. But what I'm saying, if they were not connected at all, they different. And that's fine. And I respect what you believe or don't believe. It's just, I have my opinion.
I'll jump in real quick because I know I was listening to Trill AC say what he was saying, and I wanted to comment on that because I do understand what you're saying as far as people do have success and they, just like he said, going by the numbers, and they're just basically jumping on the bandwagon. But in the end, that's still God's will. That was still his will for you, whether you believed in him or not, or believed in whatever higher power. That was still the will that he laid out for your life. So that's in itself, the word. So, you know, in the end, even who was that on Apple? Was it Bill Gates, or it was the guy
Steve
that
Jobs.
owned Apple? Steve, yeah, Steve Jobs. He literally, said on his deathbed that if he created such a beautiful business, I mean, successful, it was just amazing. But he still did not, could fix what was wrong with him. He had cancer and he was sick and he was dying. So, in the end, we can always go through the process and say, okay, well, this worked, this worked, and this is why it worked, and this is how it's working, and we're going to jump on the bandwagon 95%. But in the end, they all still have to answer to God. So that's why I say that it is true. You can do it, of course, but in the end, you're going to still have to answer to the higher power. So why not do it in the beginning? Why not do what Shay's saying, or, some of you others came on and definitely said that, hey, this is something that you surround yourself with like-minded individuals to become successful. No one's successful on their own. um so that was just my response to you saying that.
Yeah, no, and again, that's why I said these discussions are a bit difficult to have
Right.
because just in
And that's
just
the
in what
reason
you
why I wanted
said,
to have them.
right? But I mean, just
I
in
love
what
it.
she said you're gonna have to answer to God regardless. So you might as well just jump on the ship. But again, in the eyes of who?
Right.
That could be your belief. Like I said, that's why I say it's so subjective. But if that person don't believe that, then that good luck trying to sell that to them. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
and
So
I,
I
and
think
I
it
don't
just
think it's
depends on what it is that you believe per se. And going back to what Shay was saying earlier, I think that you speaking from an anecdotal perspective, and I respect that. And this is the reason why I say that. Just like you said, like I had people in the trenches with me in my business. I was paying them next to nothing, and they just roll with me. That's not majority. If we take 10 people and say, hey man, you can come ride with me, build this business from the ground. You ain't gonna make no money, you know what I'm saying? But again, I got faith, I got belief. Most people is not signing up to come work for no money. That's just not reality. You know what I'm saying? But again, you was in a special circumstance that allowed for that to be. But I guarantee you what, it'll be more people that'll sign up to work for a business that's super successful with somebody that's not tied to spirituality than there would be to somebody to work for a business to where my paycheck is not guaranteed, but they got close ties with God. They are directly aligned with God, but it's not a for certain that they're gonna be able to pay me my check. Most people are not going for that. So that's what I mean by winning is what winning is influence. Don't necessarily have to be your beliefs tied to a spiritual power. It's about a success. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be accepted. Now, the means and the variations in which you do that is tied to your beliefs, and that's why I say this conversation is subjective. But again, I'll repeat: we cannot say with complete, finality that it has to be this way or it's not successful or you're not leading right according to what I heard y'all say earlier. I feel like that is wrong. But in terms of like there are multiple ways to get to a destination. I'm gonna hammer this point on until we get it. And who am I to say? Just because I don't believe in what that man believe in, but if we end up at the same destination in terms of what we deem as success, who am I to say he's wrong?
But Joe,
and
can I
I
ask you
do.
something?
Oh, I was just gonna say real quick, I do respect your perspective, and that's if that's your experience, then hey, who are we to judge that experience? Because I have a totally different experience, totally different perspective on that. So then, like you said, it's subjective to say these things, but at the same time, it's all a will. So that's why everybody ain't gonna go. Everybody ain't gonna get it. Everybody not gonna, you know, like you said, if he's doing the same thing I'm doing and he's believing and I'm not believing, but we're getting to the same thing at some point, whether it becomes illness, which we hope not, whatever his downfall will be, it's still gonna come up to where it's gonna go back to being spiritual. Normally, when people are ill or having downfalls, that's where they go to. They go straight to the higher power. So then it's never a situation where it won't ever come up, but it will be a situation where it has to come up. So it just always goes back to that. So if that's the experience that you've had or seen, or you um I can't even say grow, I don't know the background or anything, but if that's the experience from what I'm hearing, if that's what you've experienced and that's the perspective, then it still goes back. And I'll keep hammering that until we get that. It still goes back to the high power, which for me is God. So
Let me ask this question to the panel. Simple question. Does everybody know who Hitler is? Was he a successful leader?
Yeah,
no.
He
he
was.
was. Whether we want to believe it or not, and he was an atheist, he was a successful leader.
But that's where we're gonna have to
Or was he
differentiate
a good
that.
one? And
Well,
that's
that's different. That's
that's what
different. That's
Now, the
different.
reason why I asked that question is because every time somebody says the word faith, they always connect it to Christianity, right? But faith is not necessarily connected to Christianity. I mean, you have lots of religions. I mean, when I lived in India, they worshiped like a million gods, and that's what their faith was in. And they felt like or thought that what they were, that was their higher power, right? You have Muslims, you have Islam, you have all of these different spiritualities or faiths. I wanted to say this, that I think oftentimes that people that are in the place of one particular religion only connect faith to that, when your faith is really about you not knowing what's about to happen and you're having a belief that it will, right? That's like the baseline of it, right? So that's why I brought up Hitler, because Hitler almost took over the world. Napoleon almost took over the world, right? And these are individuals. I'm not sure about Napoleon. I can't speak on him. But as far as Hitler was not a believer in Christianity. Matter of fact, that's why he was executing, right? So that's why I like having discussions, because a different perspective is very important, right? The ones that have been on panels understand that you have to see what other people are saying and kind of connect it to what you believe, because at the end of the day, as you all have alluded to, that it is subjective, right? But my question was simply, can you lead without a higher power? And you can. When you say, was he successful? Hitler was successful, because y'all just said success was subjective. He accomplished his goal, right? So you just got to make sure that when the you got to make sure when we talk about faith that it's not exclusive to Christianity, right? So that's what I wanted to say. Trill, did you want to add something?
Yeah, nah, I was gonna give you just a bit of correction. He killed himself, so he even went out his own way. But just in terms of Hitler, I think he's a genius. A genius. Man literally came from nothing. I mean, nobody, to be the leader of that small ass country and literally almost take over the whole European side of the globe. The only reason that it didn't go through was because we intervened and Britain intervened. But if we would have minded our business, he would have took over that whole side of the world based on, again, his beliefs and just his ability to finesse. Going back to what I said earlier, like influence is based on people's ability to finesse, and it's based on are you successful in what you're doing. And like he was innovative in terms of how his war tactics, blitzkrieg, and all those different things like that. He had the ability to finesse, and that got him the way he was. He didn't come from money like a JFK or somebody like that got handed their spot. He literally finessed it from the mud, as y'all referenced earlier, with zero ties to spirituality at all. And even so much so to where, like I said, when he was getting ready to go out, he said, "You know what? Forget that. I ain't about to let them take me. I'm going my own way. We're gonna lock ourselves in this bunker. We're going to enjoy our days. We're going to sip liquor. We're going to eat. We're going to do whatever. And then when I feel like they're getting close, we're going to pop this side nod, and that's how I'm going out. So he even went out his own way. So in terms of success, like I said, success is relative. But to me, I deem success as your ability to influence. It ain't necessarily tied to the money. It's your ability to influence, because you could tie influence to success in any aspect of life, whether it's corporate world, whether it's, fatherhood, leading a family, whatever. Your ability to influence is what makes you successful. And he had a hell of a ability to influence. Now, the methods in which he did it, again, I don't agree with that. But again, but regardless, he finessed the influence how he finessed it. And that was zero spirituality tied to it. So that's another example that just made my point. But, that's something I want to add to that.
So I don't think we are disagreeing that you can lead without that. I think we actually all agree that you can lead. And we can even agree to success. But just like you said, he almost took over the world. Well, so did a pandemic. That wasn't good. The ability to influence and take over does not mean that it's good. And that's how leadership is. Just because you can influence and you can take over and you can cause change does not mean that influence and power in and of itself is a good thing. Is it helping people? Is it creating opportunities for people? Is it bringing balance and order? And if it's not doing those things, but rather creates chaos and it takes lives and erases opportunities, then we can't simply judge leadership by the success of numbers. We got to look at the impact and its goodness and the effect that it's had on people, and not only in the small, but overall, what was his influence? So we agree on leadership. You don't have to be religious. You got to be spiritual. Success doesn't have to be that. But what is the impact? If his influence, if we're going to count that success, well, the pandemic was successful as well. But was it good? And that goes back to my first point. You can lead anywhere, but are you leading well? Is this good leadership?
And I don't know. Let me see. Hank, I'm gonna come to you, Trill. Hank, what's your thoughts on it?
I mean, I agree with what Trill said. I mean, was he a good leader? No, he wasn't. As far as aspect, because like you said, but he was able to finesse the propaganda. He was able to spread and get his message across. He's no different from the Japanese. They did the same thing. So, and these weren't some religious people we're talking about, but it depends on what you consider success as far as leadership. So I know Shay says she doesn't believe somebody with morals can be a good leader, but that example that you gave, Humble, was a great example.
I didn't say that they couldn't be a good leader. I said I didn't enjoy working under someone who wasn't a believer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Trill, what was you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna touch on what Sir Harold said about, just because somebody can influence, is it good for people? Again, I feel like that's subjective, because to Hitler's following, it was great for them in terms of him just dominating and taking over, and we spreading our influence, whatever the case may be. Now, people, who was outside of that sphere, you're right, it was horrible for them. But again, I think that's real. Just like with the pandemic, you got people that was devastated by the pandemic, and then you got other people that made more money than they ever made in their lives because of the pandemic. You got people that literally separated, left the workforce, started businesses, all type of shit because of the pandemic. So again, I think experience is relative here. It's hard to kind of nail something down firm like that. Because me personally, the pandemic is the best thing that ever happened to me from a career perspective. We're gonna be honest. And I actually caught it. But I was able to work from home. Okay, so I'm able to do my regular job, and then I can work on building my brand. And I done built that up into what it is, I'm saying, and that turning that into a such and such figure business. We're not gonna throw numbers out there because the IRS watching. But what I'm saying is this: good, it's relative. But the ability to influence, the ability to move the needle according to your will. Let's take money off the table. Let's take all that off the table. But the ability to move the needle and make people adjust and shift to your will, that's what I feel like is success. But again, that's what I feel like it's success. So, again, we're gonna argue in circles because it's relative. But I just want to add that.
That's a bet. This has been a good dialogue. I mean, it went longer than I thought, but I didn't want to stop it because it seemed to be in a good vein. So I wanted to ask the question of this. Okay, so how can a father raise a child with two different faith perspectives, right? So what I mean by that is, right, you know, we have individuals saying, well, here you have a person that's an atheist or not a not belief in God, and then you have a person that does believe in God. How can how can the father lead if they're not on the same wavelength as the father and the mother, whether that's in the house or outside the house? Y'all understand the question, or do I need to restate it?
No, I understand.
Okay.
I think that what you said earlier about there are some fundamental components into whatever each person believes, and that's our real life. My son's father and myself, we believe two different things, but we find the common ground in what we believe when we're speaking with our son. And of course, I believe in Jesus, he doesn't. And I think if you want to give your kids the tools to have a spiritual foundation, because you know that they'll need it, which is what we both believe, that they'll need it and need to be able to call upon it, then you'll pull from those principles that are found in both. And that's just how we work. That's how we work. It works out for us. I still take my son to church. I still teach him about Jesus, and he, teaches him about what he believes.
Well, Shay, how did y'all hook up then? I mean, I don't understand because I know you just sit there and shared a minute ago. You couldn't stand work with people who was not spiritual or religious.
And that's why we're divorced. I mean, if you want to be truthful about it.
But man, how did y'all even get married?
After MBA school, after I got my MBA, I was in a new city, and he had some characteristics when I was young and thought that you didn't have to be equally yoked and that it could work. And you realize after experience that that doesn't work for me. And so experience teaches you valuable lessons, right? And so it happened, but we're able to be great co-parents to our son. And we realized that, it just couldn't work, because that was honestly when we were together, we had many issues about, like, if I was praising and he's like, okay, what are you doing? What's going on? He called my sister, is she okay? It's the barrier there. Like, it's a lot of confusion. And so it didn't work. But he's a great father. I can't take that away from him. We just didn't match as husband and wife. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Go ahead, Sir Hale.
It's going to be real difficult. If it's at all possible, you want to get somebody who shares the same values you have. There are different homes where, like, mother is super religious and father is just not. But what makes them able to work is they share some common values. And I think that if you guys can agree on values, I think you can make it work. But I tend to say, get somebody who has the same faith. It just makes life easier, because somebody going to be spending time trying to convert the other person, and that's going to just blow up, and you don't even have time to love one another because you're trying to get each other converted, right? So find somebody who shares your same faith if it is at all possible. In like Shay's case, that's very difficult, because let's say you both meet and you both don't believe anything, and then you have a moment in your life where something changes and now you do have a belief. Well, that's going to create conflict. And again, that goes back to your values. If you guys can agree on values and the person who you're with can respect you, and you guys can exist that way, I think it's possible. Now, if I take it back to Christianity, there's a passage in the New Testament that says It teaches husbands and wives how to conduct themselves with an unbelieving spouse. That if that person you're with can love you, respect you, and they want to stay, well, you pray for them, you love them, and you do well. But again, that goes back to, can I value you? Can I respect you? And I think if couples can do that, they can coexist. Albeit difficult, I think it's still possible.
And that's 100%, I guess, what we do, because respect, having faith, praying, those are things that we each value in our different beliefs. And so we bring that to our son, and he's forming his own belief about what he believes. He even struggled, and so we are able to still try to have those open conversations with him about what he's believing. Because when he said, "Oh, mommy, I don't believe in God," we both had a conversation with him about, okay, why you don't, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's going back to what Sir Hale says in, why are you trying to get on camera? And understanding and having those values to help lead you and guide you.
Yeah, Humble Dad, can you repeat the question one more time? I just want to make sure that I answer it flush.
No worries. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong. I still got the banner going.
Mm.
You know how to do this moderating thing. It's like you just trying to do all these things behind the scene, and
it's all good.
So the question is, how does a household or a father lead his family when there are two different faiths inside of the house, whether or outside of the house, right? Like there may have been a situation where what we have now, there are a lot of single mothers, right? And then they have the dads, right? And so one of them may believe in a higher power and the other one does not. So how does that how would that work? Mainly, that the main question I want to know is, how would that work for the child, right? And so, but you can answer however you feel like it.
Yeah, I would say like the main way that it will work, is integrity, morals. I think people may have different spiritual beliefs, or somebody may not have, a spiritual belief at all, but we all know right and wrong. We all know when we treating somebody bad, or when we, trying to get over or trying to finesse or different things like that. So I think, as long as you have that understanding, then we have, some solid morals and solid foundation that we can go off of. Now, I may have got my morals based on my, spiritual teachings. You may have got your morals based on just living life, whether or not you was in the streets or whatever. You might have been selling a little something or something and didn't pay back what you was supposed to pay back, and it was consequences. So that taught me, hey, it's not a smart thing to finesse people, or it's not a smart thing to steal, or to be a thief. To whereas that other person who has ties to spirituality, they might have got that from reading the word, But at the end of the day, I think we all have a general sense of what right and wrong is, and I think, but I do believe this. I think that as parents, y'all gotta like collaborate behind closed doors to present the child a united message, regardless of what the spiritual belief is. So, again, let's say that the man isn't spiritual and the woman is, because that would be, I don't want to say in line with mine, because I do believe in a higher being, but I'm just not super religious, right? Like my wife grew up in a church every Sunday, 2-3 times a week, Sunday service, Bible study, youth choir meeting, pastor, all that. You know what I'm saying? That me, no. But I do believe in a, higher being, whatever the case may be. So if, again, it's certain things from that, in terms of how she moves and in terms of how she carries herself from a moral perspective, I could be 100% in alignment with, and that's what's going to be the foundation of what we teach our children. You know what I'm saying? So I think if y'all can, again, going back to what Sir Hale said, if y'all got moral common ground in terms of, foundational beliefs and a general sense of right and wrong, then it's not that hard to do, if we're gonna be honest. Because it's just because y'all wouldn't be together that long if the situation wasn't an issue. Going back to what Ink said earlier when he was asking Shay, he was like, "Well, damn, well, how did y'all even end up in that?" Well, because she found moral, similarities that she clung to, and other characteristics, maybe a bit more shallow, but that's neither here nor there. I don't mean to dive in your business, but that's just how the game goes sometimes. I get it. I ain't judging. But what I'm saying is this: there was certain morals that they had in common that they bonded based on that and tried to ride it out for as long as they could until they couldn't no more. So I think that, if you can continue to ride those out, and you never know, you might be able to convert somebody into your line of belief if you preach to them long enough. You know what I'm saying? You just never know. But, is it possible? Yes. But the parents got to be on one united front. That's what I do believe. However, y'all got to get there, get there.
I want to go. That's good. Okay, so speaking of that, Trill and Ashley, you're welcome to chime in at any time. So you said they need to come behind closed doors, right? And talk about how is it that they're going to um, display that information to that kid. I wonder, yeah, I'm just playing devil advocate because these are scenarios that do happen just in my mind, but I've never necessarily seen them in real life, right? So, who is going to be the director or the leader of how that conversation goes, as well as how do you come to a common ground on such a challenging disposition, right? How, what is morality? You right? Because once again, if I'm saying that the Bible is what I'm leaning on, right? Then another person says, well, I'm leaning on nothing, or I'm leaning on the Quran or something like that. Then how is it? Who is going to be the person that says, okay, I'm with you? Who's going to concede? Basically, that's really what it looks like, right? Who's going to lead that conversation and who's going to concede?
Well, if we take both of those faiths, the men are the leaders. So this is why I believe men have to be in position to have these conversations. But in the real world, the person who's most consistent with the faith, they're typically going to be the one to take the lead.
That was exactly how we did it. I was more consistent in the faith. So I took the lead, right? And so if he would have been more consistent, because I allow him to lead as a father. So I'm one of those moms that whatever he needs to do as a father to lead our son, because I'm not a black man, so I can't truly teach our son some things, that I allow him that space to be able to do that without my interjection. My son will want me to interject, and I'm like, listen, that's your dad. That's what he said. That's it. But since I was the one that was more consistent, then it just flowed into that. And right now, it just flows. Even when he talks to him about God in general, I was like, oh, okay, like that's the space we're in right now. So we're 10 years in, and he's having those conversations when our son doesn't want to go to choir at church, and he's like, oh, you going to choir? I'm like, okay, like, okay, it took us 10 years, but this is where we are. But it works, because I think at the foundation there was some respect there of, at the end of the day, I know you're a great mother to my son. I know you're a great father to our son. So we're not going to steer him wrong in any direction, because the respect is there, and we know the other qualities that each other brings to the table outside of what we believe.
I think this is probably why you can't say never, or just say that you will never do something, because as a parent, I've just always taught the foundation of life itself. You have the stuff that you talk about, which is saying treat people right, and um do this as a human. I think that's kind of where I was grounded as a parent, to say, hey, I'm raising humans, so you have to raise them to be good humans. um Now, as far as the religion part, these kids grow up and they have their own character. I mean, everybody has their own characters, a little bit more than morals. They have their own character. So each child is different. So I think you have to, like Shay said, it's flowing in her. It's just a flow now. In the beginning, I just taught the basics. I taught based on their characters, and that's just how I did it. As far as the father, coming in, like how Shay said, that's how he rolls with me. Like if I say if it's it's gonna work, then hey, okay, your mother said it's gonna work, and that's just how our household works. Um, versus anybody else, we don't have that type of back and forward. Not to say I'm making all the right decisions, because I do consult them outside of the children knowing. I will say that I've always consulted their fathers outside of them knowing, because that's just influence. As you guys say, that's influence, but I'm finessing to try to see what's happening or what's going on, like trying to get where his head is, especially when it comes down to spirituality, because um I want my children to believe in what I believe in. I want them to do the things that are right and humanly possible, but they grow up and they have their own character. So every child's different. I think that at some point you just have to take it day by day. And I think it's very, very common for you to make those mistakes, and maybe like how Shay said, they weren't equally yoked at first, and so they got together. But after you have the child, it's too late. You can't go back and do anything else. You just got to find some common ground to make it work. So whether he believes in the same thing, you believe in something different, whatever the case may be. I feel like that's just what'll work best, is day by day, taking it day by day, especially when it comes to being spiritual, because everybody sees that as a higher power. So it's of course different. So
Well, I said it earlier. Our sisters, if the father is not the spiritual leader in the house, and he's not going to be considered looked at as a leader, he's not. There's no way. They're going to go to church, and they're going to hear their pastor or their priest or whatever the case may be, and they're going to look at him and they're going to submit to him, but they're not going to submit to that man. Most of them are not going to submit to that man. Now, Shay, may be different in your situation, and that's great. But the average, they're not going to do that. If they're in a relationship with a man who's just not religious, are pretty much a non-believer, whatever you want to call them, they're not gonna respect him like that. They should, and you expect this man to lead your son, and y'all not on the same plane as far as religious wise, but maybe morally. There's still going to be some questions about that, because how are you going to answer the child's question when you're going to try to handle it in a spiritual way, but the man is not? So, I mean,
so that's such a big point. So I want to make this clear. So I don't consider myself religious. Like I think that if we're talking about church religious, like I go to church, but spiritual morals, I honestly think men shouldn't be all that quote unquote religious. Like I think men should be firm in their beliefs, their decisions, and when they talk about things, principles. I think that's how men ought to operate. In principles, if you talk about that, that in itself is spiritual. I think what we've done in America is spirituality is church service. And those are two different things. I know a lot of church people who are not successful. I wouldn't take advice from them at all. And they act like they're Jesus' second cousin, right? Well, I know some people, they don't pretend to be that way. They don't pretend to know all the scriptures, but they live by principles. They care about people. They're structured. If they owe somebody something, they want to repay it. Like those kind of core things. That to me represents somebody who has a deeper sense of true religion than somebody who has the antics of it. You see what I'm saying? So I wanted to put that out there, because I think a lot of people think to be religious means you're charismatic. And to me, true religion is about your morals and your ethics and the way you conduct yourself in your private life, and not just what you do when you go to a building with somebody speaking over you.
But sir, hell, we know when the sisters go to church and they see that pastor, they're going to compare. Well, why don't my husband act like what the pastor does? Why don't he talk like that? Why don't care? Why don't he speak like that? Why don't he pray over me like that? That's normally what they do. That's normally what they do. Look, I remember I had to talked to my ex-wife. I said, don't you ever compare me to another man. Don't ever do that. And that was an argument. That was an argument in our household because I had to let her know, don't you ever compare me to another man. But I see and I hear stories about a lot of women doing this. Wow, well, I wish my man do it. They'll watch TV and see something on a soap opera. Well, I wish my man would do me like this. I wish he
Social
would buy
media
me this.
too.
Well, and that's why I don't think it has to do anything with being a pastor or church in general. Just saying, oh, I want my husband to do those things. If you think about just growing up, media, how women and men are portrayed in movies and just scenes like. And going back to using myself as an example, you asked me how did I get caught up in it? Because I didn't come from a 2-parent household, right? I only knew what I saw on TV. So what I saw on TV was what I thought it was supposed to work like, right? And then when you get married, you realize, oh, this is nothing like TV, right? This is real life. And so you begin to make those adjustments. But I think you're taught, or most women are taught that. I don't think it has anything with, oh, he's a pastor. Of course, I love when my husband prays over me and does certain things because I feel like he understands me on a spiritual level. So those are certain things that I require that gets me going so that I can continue to pour into him, right? So women will have that those spiritual needs that they need. And I don't know if it's necessarily just because they're at church and it's a pastor. I just think the way society frames this whole relationship between men and women and what that should look like and what's been put out there.
I'll tell you what it really is. Humble Dad, this show's about to take a turn. What it really is women glorify men that won't directly talk to you. Like women who have been raised by men, you can't make her feel bubbly on the inside because somebody's speaking swelling words, because she's actually seen how a man actually moves. You see what I'm saying? And so I think a lot of women who get finessed are women who didn't really see a man, a successful man, like
True.
a man who's about his business. And so you aspire to have the closest thing that to you emulates success until you had a real thing. So most of the ladies who get caught up in that, they compare because they don't have, and they don't know what it's like to live with that man. They don't know how he really is, because you can be a good preacher and a terrible person. And I would rather you be an okay religious person and an excellent character at being a human being. I think that to me is what a man is.
Repeat that statement, sir.
I'm 35, and so my memory is not as good as it used to be, but I said something to the degree. I said I would rather a man be okay at the religious stuff, but he's a great man, great character. I think that to me is what makes him a man.
That's what's up, man. Did somebody else have something to add to that? Y'all going
I was just gonna say, man, I think that now that I'm thinking about it, I'm hearing y'all talk. It might be best to have one person that's not as deeply tied to religion as the other parent, and this is the reason why, right? Like I like grew up and I got cousins that had parents that were super religious. Like I said, they in church every Sunday, got the kids in there 5 times a week. It was just like, it's like, bro, you coming? Hell no, I'm not coming. To they have church 5 times a week, but that's how they growing up. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times when they're running issues and they'll try to come to the parent for advice, they gonna Bible thump them to death. And after a while, that becomes white noise. So if you don't have that other outlet to go get it from, then what you gonna do? You gonna go to the neighborhood to get it. To whereas if you had that other parent who not as much of a Bible thumper, he gonna be able to give you the game in layman terms that you can relate to when you out in the streets right now. You know what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of times causes a disconnect between the parents and the kids. Let's just be honest here. You could have a pastor for a daddy and a deaconess for a mama, whatever the case may be, but that doesn't mean y'all got 3 kids. That don't mean that all them kids gonna be religious. One of them might take to what y'all saying in terms of spirituality. But the other one might, I don't want to go to church. I'm gonna go to church because y'all telling me to. But the second I don't have to no more, I'm not going. I'm gonna just be out, you know what I'm saying, and doing my thing or whatever the case may be. And oftentimes they'll lose that kid because he don't feel like he can come to his parents and have a real conversation without you bringing up scripture or without you bringing up something that has to do with church. Sometimes you need to come to your parent and be able to just get that raw, real, uncut that ain't tied to nothing. Hey, bro, I went through this. So when you out dealing with this is what you need to look for. You need to do that. You need to do this. You do that based on experience, not necessarily what the Bible says, right? So just in hearing y'all talk, you may need that juxtaposition just to make sure that you can keep all your kids wrangled in. Because if you just Bible thumping 100% of the time, you're going to lose a couple of your children, if not all of them, because they don't feel like they can come to you. And that's just real. That's lived experience.
That's an interesting point, Trill. The reason why is because as a believer, in Deuteronomy 6, it talks about, I think it's either 4 or 6. It talks about, from a Christian standpoint, it says that one of the things that fathers need to do is actually talk to your kids on a regular basis, whether when they wake up, when when you're walking, and when they lie down, that you should be talking to them about spiritual things, in the sense of how to deal with life, right? And then in the context of scripture, it gives you a lot of different ways to deal with life. But at the end of the day, how are you treating people, right? That's what it really kind of boils down to. And that's the one of the things that needs to be taught to children, specifically as they grow up. How are you treating people, right? But as it relates to saying that one needs to be, that's possible, you know what I'm saying? Because every relationship is different. But as it from a biblical standpoint, it would be it's that's going to be anyway, that one is a little bit more knowledgeable than the other, like that's going to happen, right? And so the thing that has been said that's really good is that y'all need to be on the same page, right? Y'all need to be equally yoked, whatever that foundation is. You should not have walking into a marriage and y'all don't have a good foundation as it relates to morals and ethics and things of that nature. I wanted to give this small statistic. It says that, and this is just church. I don't know. I would just imagine that this could apply to every other thing, other religions. When both parents attend Bible study, in addition to Sunday service, 72% of those children attend Sunday school when they're grown. Now, I'm not saying that this means that they're going to be upstanding followers. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm just saying that they will go. If the father attends, if only the father attends, 55% of those children will attend when grown. Now, check out this stat. When it's the mother who is leading the direction of going to Sunday school, 15% of children will attend when grown. Okay. That is how influential a father in his, as we just want to talk about going to church. I would say that could be applied to the mosque. I could say that we can apply that to the temple, to other areas of raising kids. Kids are going to lean to their father for spiritual guidance. Okay. So the women that are out there, those are just the stats. So you want to make sure that if you're saying that if a situation comes down to it and you become a single mother, right, the child is looking towards that man to get guidance from a spiritual standpoint, right? You can do all that it is that you want to say, even in your case, Shay. I mean, you're solid in your faith from what I've seen, right? But your son is leaning more towards his father, right? And so that's just what it is. So, you know, I want to take up much of your time, but if you have something to close that's dope, you know, True, you can find him on Crew Season. Hink, where can they find you if they want to shout at you?
You can find me on Lapeef and Sunday at on 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. Or you can find me on Instagram at Hink75.
That's a bet. Hey man, True, I took your shine, bro. You may want to say somewhere else you at. You know what I'm saying? I just know you type in Crew Season, bro, and it just pop up. You know what I'm saying? All world.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. Crew Season on all platforms, man. Shout out to the gang as always. You know, every Tuesday, all streaming platforms. Catch me on Lapeef, catch me on Humble Dad on Mondays. Sometimes catch me. I'm out Madwell, man. But you know, just tap into Crew Season for sure, man. Salute to the gang.
Absolutely. Then Shay, what you got? Where we gonna find you at?
Shay McKnuckles on Instagram and Facebook, or you can follow my business page, Uptown Discovery Group.
Uptown Discovery Group.
Mm-hmm. Uptown
Okay,
Discovery Group.
that's a bet. And can they work from home when they work with you?
We're not hiring for my team right now.
Hey, listen, there you go. She said she booked. That's what's up. Hey,
No, I'm very selective on who joins my team.
that's a
You
bet.
learn from corporate America and you get to do your own thing. So yeah, we're not hiring right now.
That's a fact. So hell, where can they find you, bro?
They can find me first of all on this stream. If you guys have tuned in and haven't hit the like button, shame on you. Show Humble Dad some love. Subscribe, like. You can find me here whenever he invites me and lets me on. Otherwise, you can find me on the Sir Hill Speaks Network. That's where I typically spend my time.
That's a bet. Appreciate you. And Ashley, is there somewhere they can find you? If you, some people don't want to get in touch with, so you let us know.
Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. It was a pleasure meeting such beautiful Black people. I love it. I love the conversation, and you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. I have to keep saying that because I'm looking at y'all pages while we talking, and y'all are amazing. You can find me on Instagram at Snapped by Ashley Nicole.
That's what's up. Well, I want to say thank you to the panel. This has been a really dope conversation, and you know how we do. Until next time, we out here. Deuces. Well, that was dope, man. It was really good. I really appreciate the conversation. Sometimes you don't know how it's gonna go, and I'm cool with that. Um, just listening to people's perspective is always an opportunity for you to grow and gain knowledge and understanding. You never want to be closed-minded. You always want to have an opportunity. You always want to have an open mindset, even though you may have your perspective, right? Because there are some nuggets that each and every one can provide to you. In the scripture, it talks about they told the gardeners to make sure that they left the ends of the garden untouched, so that people that walk by could glean from what it is that they had grown. So hopefully you was able to glean from this conversation tonight, and we'll be back, same station, same time next week. Until then, you know what it is. Humble Dad in the building. Deuces. Oh, and don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel, and go get some of that merchandise over there at humbledad.life. Humbledad.life. Deuces.